The galaxy had long assumed humanity was nothing more than a minor curiosity, a quiet species confined to a backwater star system that posed no real threat to the grand empires that spanned light years, and from the moment the first diplomatic envoy arrived at the Sol system, alien councils had dismissed humans with polite condescension and open ridicule. Seeing Earth as little more than a primitive world with outdated technology and unpredictable behavior, yet beneath the surface of this apparent simplicity, humanity harbored layers of ingenuity, resilience, and history that the universe had never bothered to comprehend, and as tensions escalated across the sector due to territorial disputes and the encroachment of mining fleets into contested asteroid belts, the alien governors, confident in their technological supremacy, enacted blockades and sanctions intended to contain and intimidate humanity, expecting perhaps a mild diplomatic protest or a token show of defensive force. Yet humanity had long prepared for the day the galaxy might assume they could be bullied, and deep beneath Earth's surface, in concealed installations dating back to eras older than most civilizations could trace, lay weapons whose power had been carefully hidden, tested only in simulations and protected by layers of secrecy. A legacy of ancient human civilizations who had mastered technologies of modern empires would never have guessed existed, and when the first incursion forced cross-sols, outer perimeter, a small contingent of explorers and military advisors realized that the aliens had miscalculated in every imaginable way, that their arrogance had left them blind to the depth of human strategy and the potential lethality of a people pushed into isolation and fear. And within hours, humanity mobilized with precision that confounded the alien command, deploying autonomous defense arrays that manipulated gravity fields and distorted sensor readings, creating the illusion of vast fleets where none existed, and at the same time, Earth's orbital stations unleashed drones carrying electromagnetic pulses capable of disabling ships before boarding parties could even react. While on the ground, scientists and engineers activated remnants of ancient mechanisms designed to amplify energy through planetary magnetic flux, a system that had been dormant for centuries but now hummed with a deadly resonance. And as alien vessels attempted to penetrate the inner system, entire squadrons found themselves caught in unpredictable gravitational anomalies, their navigational systems overloaded, forcing chaotic evasive maneuvers that only amplified human control of the battlefield, and in command centers hidden under miles of rock, human leaders coordinated the defense with calm efficiency, communicating through encrypted channels impervious to alien interception, while intelligence teams fed calculated misinformation into enemy networks, making them believe human forces were disorganized and panicked, when in reality every action had been anticipated and every countermeasure rehearsed, and as the first of the alien commanders realized that their technological superiority offered no advantage, shock rippled through the chain of command. Yet even as fear set in among their ranks, humans acted with restraint, neutralizing threats without needless destruction, and in those critical hours, it became evident that humanity was not merely defending a planet but asserting a presence that demanded recognition, a force honed by centuries of survival, conflict, and ingenuity that the galaxy had refused to respect. And when the first ancient weapon of Retribution finally activated, its energy cascading through space in waves tuned to disrupt alien power cores and communication matrices, entire squadrons of advanced warships experienced cascading failures simultaneously. Unable to understand how a species they considered primitive could wield such precise, devastating technology, and as panic spread, Earth's people maintained a calculated silence, revealing just enough power to enforce their autonomy without triggering total annihilation, a demonstration of both the deadly capability and the disciplined restraint that would come to define humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. And in that moment, the arrogance of centuries of underestimation began to crumble, as the isolated humans, underestimated for millennia, made it abundantly clear that their patience had limits. Their legacy was real, and any who sought to threaten or control them would face consequences that the stars themselves would remember. As the first shockwaves of humanity's ancient weapon rippled across the outer fleets, alien commanders scrambled to understand the scale of the catastrophe unfolding before them, their once confident calculations failing at every turn. Sensors overloaded and tactical predictions rendered meaningless as human forces seemed to anticipate every maneuver. Yet this was no random chaos, but a symphony of precision orchestrated by generations of planners who had studied not just warfare but the psychology of civilizations who assumed superiority as their birthright. And on Earth, in command centers deep beneath sprawling cities, military strategists and scientists worked in seamless unison, interpreting real-time data from drones, orbital platforms, and reckoned satellites, while simultaneously activating defensive protocols that could neutralize retaliatory strikes with minimal risk to civilians, proving that humanity's ingenuity extended beyond raw firepower into sophisticated orchestration of battle. And as alien fleets attempted to regroup and launch counteroffensives, their ships found themselves trapped in gravity wells manipulated by terrestrial stations, their engines straining against forces no theoretical physics had prepared them for, while autonomous drones executed complex attack patterns that exploited every design flaw in their hulls and energy cores, leaving commanders stunned as entire squadrons vanished in mere minutes without a single human casualty. And amid the chaos, Earth's political leaders, long dismissed as naive diplomats, coordinated rapid negotiations with neutral civilizations to prevent wider conflict, revealing a level of strategic foresight that further destabilized the alien perception of humanity as a minor species. And in sectors beyond Sol, whispers spread among alien crews of inexplicable anomalies, ancient weapons activating simultaneously across multiple hidden sites on Earth, structures that had been silent for centuries now pulsing with energy and projecting tactical dominance across thousands of kilometers, forcing alien fleets to abandon prior assumptions and confront the terrifying reality that humanity's isolation had been deliberate, a protective measure, and that their underestimated patience was now a weapon in itself. And as the Alien High Council convened emergency sessions, desperate to coordinate a unified response, human intelligence networks intercepted their communications, feeding subtle disinformation that seeded panic, mistrust, and overreactions among the rival factions, while simultaneously sending precise targeting data to human defensive units, ensuring that every move the aliens may played into a larger, meticulously planned trap. And at the heart of Earth, scientists monitored ancient mechanisms that tapped into planetary energy grids, drawing from geological and electromagnetic forces in ways the invaders could scarcely comprehend, producing pulses capable of disabling propulsion systems, shields, and communication arrays across entire fleets. And as the first alien admirals realized that the humans had not just technology but a deep understanding of galactic-scale strategy, fear spread through the ranks like wildfire, and still humanity maintained restraint, focusing on containment, disabling enemy assets without wholesale destruction, proving that their power was matched not just by capability but by the disciplined wisdom to use it selectively. And in those critical hours, a single, unavoidable truth became clear across the galaxy. Humanity had been underestimated at their peril, and isolation had forged them into a force no empire could ignore, one whose patience was deadly, whose intellect surpassed arrogance, and whose emergence will forever alter the balance of power among the stars. As the alien fleet struggled to recover from the initial onslaught, humanity shifted from a defensive posture to a calculated counteroffensive, revealing layers of technology and strategy that had been hidden for centuries and forcing commanders across multiple species to confront a truth they had long refused to accept, that humans were neither primitive nor predictable. And as Earth's orbital stations deployed arrays of stealth drones capable of weaving through space undetected while simultaneously emitting jamming signals that scrambled enemy communications, entire wings of alien ships found themselves cut off from command, their crews panicking as their navigational systems went haywire and energy shields fluctuated unpredictably, yet every disruption was part of a broader pattern, a choreography devised by humans who understood that victory relied as much on psychological manipulation as on firepower, and on the surface, engineers activated ancient energy amplifiers, buried beneath continents, devices designed to focus planetary magnetic fields into beams capable of disabling starship engines and warheads over vast distances, an achievement so advanced that alien scientists could only gape in horror as their calculations failed and simulations proved useless against the reality of human ingenuity, while command centers on Earth orchestrated real-time coordination between orbital assets, surface-based weapons, and autonomous tactical units, ensuring that every maneuver the enemy attempted played into a larger, meticulously planned trap, and simultaneously, reconnaissance teams monitored alien fleets for weaknesses, using predictive algorithms refined over decades to anticipate not just movements but decision-making patterns, exposing every flaw in their tactics and exploiting it with surgical precision. And as entire battle formations were neutralized without direct human engagement, alien morale collapsed, fracturing hierarchies as rival. Admirals blamed one another for failures they could not comprehend, and yet even amid the devastation, humans exercised restraint, capturing vessels intact when possible, avoiding unnecessary loss of life, a tactic that further unnerved the invaders who expected ruthless aggression from a species they considered isolated and weak, and as communications networks intercepted desperate pleas for surrender. Earth's leaders broadcast targeted signals demonstrating both technological superiority and strategic dominance, all while offering terms that emphasize diplomacy over annihilation, reinforcing that humanity's strength lay not only in its weapons but in its intellect, coordination, and calculated judgment. And deep within the planet, in vaults older than recorded history, dormant systems hum to life, ancient mechanisms channeling energy with terrifying efficiency to create shields and countermeasures capable of neutralizing entire fleets. And as alien commanders attempted to regroup, they found that every move they made had been anticipated, counted, and incorporated into human strategy, leaving them trapped in a web of precision and foresight that no prior civilization had ever demonstrated. And by the time the first emergency council convened to devise a desperate strike, humanity had already established control over critical sectors, isolating enemy units, cutting off retreat paths, and demonstrating to the galaxy that humans were not merely survivors but masters of the environment, engineers of chaos, and arbiters of fate. And in the unrelenting logic of their response, the aliens face a truth that would echo through interstellar history. To underestimate humanity, to assume that isolation meant weakness, was to invite disaster. And as the first ancient weapon pulses expanded, disabling propulsion and energy cores across multiple fleets simultaneously, the galaxy began to comprehend that Earth was no longer a backwater world but the epicenter of a force that had waited, watched, and perfected the art of retribution over millennia. The alien high commands, once confident in their technological and numerical superiority, were now in full disarray, their fleets scattered and crippled by tactics they could neither anticipate nor counter, as humans exploited every vulnerability with ruthless precision, deploying stealth drones that infiltrated command vessels and sabotaged critical systems, while orbital platforms projected energy fields that destabilized shields and engines without ever directly engaging. And on Earth, scientists monitored the performance of ancient mechanisms buried deep beneath mountains and oceans, systems that had lain dormant for centuries yet now pulsed with energy capable of projecting gravitational distortions across vast distances, warping the very space through which enemy fleets moved, while military strategists coordinated attacks with an uncanny sense of timing, ensuring that every alien maneuver played directly into human traps. Psychological operations amplified the chaos as intercepted communications broadcast misinformation to sow distrust and panic among officers and crews, and as entire squadrons became paralyzed or turned on one another, humans maintained strict discipline, focusing not on indiscriminate destruction but on containment, neutralization, and strategic positioning, revealing to the galaxy that their strength was as much in wisdom as in power. And even as alien admirals convened frantic councils, Earth's leaders implemented contingency measures to protect civilians, neutralize potential collateral damage, and prepare rapid humanitarian interventions for systems affected by the conflict, demonstrating a level of foresight that further shattered the arrogant assumptions of their opponents. And across the planetary network, ancient weapons calibrated to exploit the unique electromagnetic and gravitational signatures of alien technologies were brought online, firing with precision that disabled engines, scrambled communications, and rendered the enemy virtually blind and immobile, forcing them to realize that humanity's isolation had not been a weakness but a crucible, shaping them into a civilization capable of responding with coordinated, overwhelming force that transcended mere numbers or firepower. And as alien diplomats attempted desperate negotiations under the impression that humans might be persuaded by threats, they discovered that Earth's strategy encompassed not only defense and retaliation but also the subtle manipulation of perception, convincing the invaders that humanity was far more numerous, organized, and technologically advanced than they could have imagined. And as the first true engagement occurred in the outer sectors, fleets that had boasted decades of dominance were shattered before they could mount coherent resistance, while humans captured vessels intact when possible, studying their systems, learning, and adapting in real time to refine countermeasures. And in the corridors of alien command, Panic turned to horror as reports poured in of energy signatures and mechanisms previously thought impossible, devices capable of manipulating planetary and stellar forces activated across multiple points, demonstrating not just technological prowess but a deep understanding of the fundamental laws of the galaxy. And by the time the first alien contingency fleet attempted a coordinated strike, every approach had been anticipated, every path monitored, every vulnerability exploited. Leaving the invaders to confront a simple, terrifying reality, humanity had waited, learned, and perfected its response in silence. And now, having unleashed a fraction of its ancient power, the isolated and underestimated humans have become the dominant force in the conflict, capable of shaping the outcome of a galactic war with precision, intelligence, and a patience born of centuries of careful preparation. As the battle escalated across multiple star systems, humanity revealed the deeper layers of its ancient arsenal. Devices hidden for centuries now synchronized to work in concert, producing gravitational distortions, electromagnetic pulses, and energy discharges that crippled alien fleets while leaving civilian worlds untouched. And the galaxy began to grasp the terrifying precision with which humans had orchestrated every strike, as orbital arrays projected illusions of overwhelming numbers, drawing entire squadrons into traps where drones disabled weapons and engines with surgical efficiency, while planetary installations manipulated magnetic fields to interfere with propulsion, navigation, and communications, turning even the most advanced warships into stationary targets. And within Earth's hidden command centers, strategists monitored the battlefield in real time, coordinating each deployment with near-prescient accuracy, adjusting tactics dynamically as alien leaders scrambled to react, their arrogance and overconfidence evaporating in the face of a species they had long dismissed. And as humanity's ancient weapons pulsed, projecting energy waves capable of resonating with the alien ship's structural cores, entire vessels experienced cascading system failures, shields collapsing, engines exploding, communication severed. And yet humans continue to exercise remarkable restraint, focusing on neutralization and containment rather than total annihilation, sending clear signals that their power was not just destructive but disciplined, strategic, and morally calculated. While intelligence teams infiltrated alien networks to inject misinformation, amplifying distrust among commanders and provoking internal conflicts that further weakened the enemy's cohesion. And in this maelstrom, alien scientists and engineers attempted desperate countermeasures, only to find that every technological advance they had relied upon was being anticipated and neutralized by humans, who combined ancient mechanisms with cutting-edge innovation, demonstrating a level of adaptability and foresight unmatched in galactic history. And as the first fleets attempted to retreat, gravitational traps forced them into choke points where energy discharges disabled entire wings, while humans captured key vessels intact to study and repurpose, turning the enemy's own technology against them. And even as alien leaders convened emergency councils to reassess their approach, Earth's diplomats extended cautious communications to neutral factions, framing humanity not as aggressors but as a force of order, demonstrating strategic intelligence and the capacity for restraint, while ancient mechanisms buried beneath oceans and mountains continued to hum with energy, projecting planetary-scale defenses and tactical advantages that made any direct assault suicidal. And as the aliens began to comprehend the scope of what they faced, the perfect coordination of centuries old knowledge, advanced engineering, psychological mastery, and disciplined power, they realized, too late, that humanity's isolation had been a deliberate preparation, patience had been a weapon, and underestimation had been a fatal flaw, leaving the invaders to confront the unassailable fact that the humans they had dismissed were not merely capable of survival but had become the architects of their own reckoning, wielding a power that combined intellect, legacy, and strategic brilliance in a way that no civilization had ever anticipated. And as energy pulses continued to disable alien systems across multiple sectors simultaneously, a profound shift rippled through the galaxy. The underestimated and isolated humans had claimed not only defense but dominance, proving that the legacy of their ancient civilizations, combined with modern ingenuity, was a force capable of reshaping interstellar power dynamics forever. As the alien fleets reeled from successive coordinated strikes, humanity shifted to the final phase of its meticulously planned counteroffensive, deploying massive planetary-based energy projectors that amplified the ancient weapons' output to levels capable of neutralizing entire armadas while maintaining precise control over collateral zones. And as fleets attempted to regroup, Stealth drones infiltrated command vessels, severing internal networks, overriding automated defenses, and forcing alien crews into confusion, panic, and distrust, while simultaneously, orbital arrays created spatial distortions that warped navigation, turning escape routes into death traps and leaving alien warships paralyzed in the face of attacks they could neither predict nor evade. And on the surface, engineers monitored the resonance of ancient mechanisms that drew upon the planet's geomagnetic and gravitational forces, creating a wave of energy that could disable engines, shields, and weapons with surgical precision across vast distances, a technology so advanced that alien scientists could only watch helplessly as simulations failed to account for its effects, and in Earth's hidden command centers, human leaders coordinated every action with a calm decisiveness born from centuries of preparation, ensuring that every maneuver, every pulse, every countermeasure was executed flawlessly, while intelligence units continued to feed disinformation to alien networks, amplifying paranoia and internal conflicts that crippled coordinated responses. And as the alien High Council convened in desperation, they discovered that even their most secretive strategies and elite units were anticipated, trapped, and neutralized before they could act, revealing the terrifying depth of human foresight and planning. And as entire fleets were disabled, captured, or forced to retreat in chaos, humanity maintained a disciplined restraint, demonstrating that their goal was not wanton destruction but the restoration of balance and the assertion of their sovereignty. And even as alien commanders attempted to launch desperate counterstrikes, ancient mechanisms beneath Earth's surface channeled energy in synchronization with orbital platforms, creating a grid of control over the battlefield that allowed humans to manipulate gravitational and electromagnetic fields at will, turning entire sectors into zones of strategic dominance, while diplomats extended control communications to neutral systems, emphasizing the rationality, intelligence, and moral restraint of humanity, reinforcing that their power was deliberate, precise, and ethically wielded. And as alien crews began to understand that every miscalculation, every assumption of superiority, every underestimate of human patience and ingenuity had led to their present catastrophe, a sobering realization swept through the galaxy that humanity's isolation had been a crucible, shaping them into a civilization capable of orchestrating a counteroffensive that was simultaneously devastating, intelligent, and restrained. And with a final synchronization of ancient weapons across multiple continental sites, energy waves cascaded outward, neutralizing remaining hostile forces and disabling critical infrastructure in alien fleets, leaving them immobilized, disorganized, and powerless. And in that pivotal moment, the galaxy comprehended the true scale of what had been unleashed. Humans, underestimated and isolated for centuries, had perfected the art of retribution, combining legacy, intellect, strategy, and disciplined power to transform what had been assumed to be a minor species into an unstoppable force whose dominance was now undeniable and whose emergence would forever alter the balance of interstellar civilization. With the alien fleets crippled, their command structures fractured, and their morale shattered, humanity transitioned from calculated counteroffensive to strategic consolidation, demonstrating to the galaxy that their power was not only destructive but disciplined, intelligent, and capable of governing outcomes with precision. As orbital arrays continue to project gravitational and electromagnetic control over key sectors, immobilizing remaining vessels while simultaneously ensuring civilian and neutral worlds remained untouched. And on the surface, ancient mechanisms buried across continents resonated in harmony, reinforcing defensive grids, amplifying energy projectors, and neutralizing residual threats, creating a seamless network of planetary-scale strategy that no invader could hope to overcome, while Earth's leaders coordinated communication with allied and neutral civilizations, offering both protection and guidance, showing that humanity's dominance was tempered by foresight, morality, and responsibility. And as alien commanders convened desperate councils to plead for ceasefires and negotiate terms, they were confronted by evidence of humanity's unrivaled strategic genius, technological mastery, and psychological insight, realizing too late that every assumption of weakness, every expectation of compliance, every act of underestimation had been a fatal error. And as humans began to stabilize sectors previously threatened, capturing enemy ships for study, integrating alien technologies with their own systems, and redistributing control of contested territories to maintain order, the invaders could only watch as the galaxy's balance of power was irrevocably altered, a lesson etched into interstellar memory. The species dismissed as minor, isolated, and weak had, through patience, ingenuity, and disciplined mastery of both ancient and modern technology, risen to a position of undeniable dominance, and as the final pulses of ancient weapons receded, leaving fleets inert and civilizations awestruck, humanity stood not as conquerors but as arbiters, demonstrating restraint, calculated mercy, and a command over strategy and power that few could comprehend. And across the stars, from diplomatic chambers to warships, from scientific academies to distant colonies, the tale of humanity's emergence spread, a story of underestimated patience, hidden legacy, and overwhelming capability, proving that isolation had forged strength, underestimation had awakened retribution, and a species once dismissed had now established itself as a force whose presence, intellect, and disciplined power would shape the galaxy for generations, leaving the aliens with sobering truth. Humanity was no longer to be mocked, ignored, or threatened, for they had unleashed not only an ancient weapon of retribution but the enduring, calculated might of a civilization that would never again be underestimated.